Peter used to be the head of department, dean, or what was the title at the time?
The head of the School of Service Industries.
22
years ago.
22 years ago. He's a longer supporter, wouldn't he?
I can still remember.
Of course. But a lot of the youngsters do not know who Peter is, so I'll make a point of especially. Okay, great. That's a screen I need to be in, right? Okay. And hello to our online audience. Tando, can you bring in the other two people that they're waiting on the thing? Okay. Wonderful to see all of you today. We've got some external people that do not know where you're from. Are you from a particular organization?
I'm Seawall and I'm from Trauma Life, which covers Bournemouth, Paul and also, and we run a number of activities that support people living with dementia and carers.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Welcome. Would you like to say where you're from? You're Bournemouth University. Which department?
Yeah, I think people around in different departments, partially ADRC.
Okay, wonderful. So we've got some of our colleagues here, our students from the business school. Here is the Center of Dementia, that's nursing, psychology, and what other department? Rehabilitation. Okay, and we've got Rosie, who is from the Marsam Court Hotel, but also Rosie is very, very critical in Bournemouth because she's coordinating a lot of the hoteliers, and she's part of Baja, part of the, what's the other? Coastal Beat.
DMB.
Anything, any stone that you pick up, there's Rosie somewhere. Okay, so she's thank you very much for coming along, Rosie. So this is going back to a conversation we had with colleagues on the Center of Dementia, Aging, and
ADRC, Aging and Dementia Research.
I don't do acronyms. Okay.
Aging and Dementia Research Center.
Perfect. And we are from the other center, that is the tourism. Okay, so this is the first time that the how many years have I been part of? Okay, this is, I don't do acronyms. So this is the first opportunity to bring both kind of centers together and invite some people from outside to explore all the good things that we're doing at the university and explore what can we do more with local partners, and in particular with the tourism sector, because the tourism sector in Bournemouth, it's very seasonal. And this market has got incredible opportunities to engage with our suppliers to make sure that everybody co-creates value across. So thank you for coming along. The way that we've organized this, I need to click this, is Daisy and myself will talk a little bit about leisure tourism for active aging. This is something that we're trying to get Daisy to specialize on because she's quite interested in this area and to look after the needs for those people that they are getting older and how can we take advantage of aging. And I'm bringing quite a lot of experience from accessible tourism for people with disabilities, people who have got special needs and things like that. I've been working on that for about 20 years. And we have a correlation between those people who are older and those people who have got disabilities. So we're bringing some of this stuff that we have been doing. And then Jan, Michele, and Michele will talk about the aging and dementia research that they're doing at the university. And then somehow we'll try to create synergies and try to create a research agenda that is going to take us forward. And we'll look for ideas for things to do. We also look for funding for doing some of this research. And where the government is going and most of the other different organizations are going is they are primarily supporting user groups. They don't support academics to actually do research, but they're supporting user groups to determine and deliver their objectives. and we are here to provide service for that. So that is the opportunity of coming together. So then we've got a coffee and networking break. Now we are very generous. We don't provide coffee, but there's a coffee shop downstairs. You can pick up anything you need. We have a comfort break. May not go for half an hour. We'll see how it goes. And then we're going to have a conversation about identifying research priorities and the future, and what can we do between us, but also what can we do with the different stakeholders that they may be here or may be in different places. We've got several people online. We're streaming this. We're recording this. So would like not only to engage with those people physically here, but also those who are interested on the topic. And hopefully before 5 o'clock, and ideally by 4, I use the requirements. I'll try, but I don't promise. We'll be able to conclude this and see where we can go next and how we can do different things. Now, that's why I absolutely love Daisy, because she's keeping me up to speed. So she's bringing the presentation in. And this is basically the presentation from us, from the Tourism and Hospitality Research Center, International Center for Tourism and Hospitality Research. Hey, 3 points. And this is some of the latest books we've done, and this is my promotion thing, the tourism review that we're publishing, journals and the Encyclopedia of Tourism Management and Marketing that we've done during COVID. Okay, this is too much promotion. Thank you very much. Please buy the books. And this is the most important things, the 2 books that are about 20 years old now. Is it 20? No, probably about 10 to 15 years old. The Accessible Tourism Concepts and Issues. That is looking into all the theoretical bits of accessibility and how we can bring people to do accessible tourism. And the Red Book, which is the manual. Okay, that's okay. Thank you. Well done. And this is the Red Book, which is provide practical information about how do you do. So we face good. Yes. Okay. So the Blue Book is the theoretical one. The red one is the book that is doing the practicing. We have looked into hotels. We've looked into transportation. We've looked at airlines. So the books have been out there for about 15 years. I've done it with Simon Darcy. Simon is a very good friend in Australia, in Sydney. He's tetraplegic. He's only writing with one hand. He's an incredible man, absolutely incredible man. And he is the top expert in the world on accessibility, and they got involved. And then with Simon and Ivor Ambos, who used to work in the European Commission, and he's coordinating the ENAT, the European Network of Accessible Tourism. So these 2 guys know everything about accessibility. And some 20 years ago, they got me involved because they said, look, you understand information systems. And one of the things about accessibility and inclusion is about information about accessibility and inclusion. That's how I got in, and then became a mission of God. So 20 years later, I'm still working on those things. So when you are looking into these things, we are looking at the silver market and the active aging, the needs of the active aging, and how can we provide and co-create solutions, smart futures, and some assistive technologies. So at some stage, Daisy is taking control, which is the next one, or this one, is it?
This one.
Okay.
Can be.
This one, perfect, okay. And then when you see a waiter, I'll come back. That's my clue to come back.
Let's wait for the waiter. Okay, so thank you. For my part, I would like to briefly introduce about this population aging situations all over the world, Europe, and then UK specifically, dot set. This map shows us different areas in different colors. We can clearly see that most of the European countries, they are falling into this red area, which means over 30% of their population are in this 60 years or over, and also 62.3% of the the Asians there are actually occupied towards the population over 55, so which is a really significant part, and as well as North America. And this is the lines for those different continents as well. For the median age, we normally say average age for different parts. Europe is still leading in this part. This is forecast until 2030. And also for the share of populations aged for 65 and over, we also are leading in this all the competition. Well, 1 in 5 of persons will be fitting into this age population. So this is our situation. If we're breaking down different segments, we can see the different increasing rate in different small parts. All of the parts are increasing, but for this age 65 to 74, the increase is really huge because of the baby boomers generation. Looking into the UK particularly, we can see the change between 2016 and the projected to 2039. Most of the areas nowadays becomes darker color, which means the 30% to 42% of the population is actually falling into these age groups compared with 2016. And for our areas, the South Coast, you can see most of the areas, they are fitting into these dark areas. Dorset, specifically where Bournemouth is sitting to, is also got some attention from the media that we are among places hardest hit by the British aging population. And also, if we're looking at the average age, the change from 2011 until 2021 increased by 4 years. So which increased that there's a huge jump for the population average age. This also gives us a signal that who our population is, and if the customers, who are they, their preferences, their behaviors probably also change as well. So that's our findings from the public. All right, this is several goals developed by the Public Health England in 2018, and identify several goals that we want to achieve. And for the tourism, leisure, hospitality services, we believe we could address at least four goals of them. For example, resilience, we can provide the learning opportunities and also get them exercise, get physical engagement. Also to develop some meaning and the purposes in life through different kind of leisure activities. Connectedness, we can try to support and give some opportunities for them to get connected or reconnected with the society. Again, tourism, travel, we also provide some opportunities for them to exercise, to move around, to enhance their physical health. We're talking about UN SDG goals all the time. Well, tourism is also very well relevant to all the goals, but particularly for the senior travel, we believe this is also the most relevant goals. For example, for good health well-being, reduce the inequalities related to age, economic growth, especially for those destinations who are particularly popular among the senior populations, and the cities, communities also build up stronger institutions. Well, facing all those different challenges, stress, and also opportunities as well, we get to know some facts about this population from our surveys and the travel industry. For example, we know those people, this group of our customers, they stay active, they love to travel, and also meet new people and places. They also have time and money to spend on travel and tourism activities. Okay. During travel, they tend to care more about their health condition. So that's so far what we have found in this literature. That's probably the tourists you may notice in those popular destinations, including Bournemouth. Well, for this age group, when they are traveling, we need to understand they're traveling with some particular maybe health concerns, not all of them, but for some of them, and they have very degree of demand, for this health support. And there are some of the very popular or not very common seen support they need. For example, for the illness of diabetes, dementia, and also arthritis, also disabilities relating to age. Okay, so that's something when we're trying to serve this part of these customers, we really need to keep in mind. Here are also some other examples that this age group may have. Some of them are long-lasting. One example is about this Alzheimer's disease. This figure shows that how common this kind of disease is among our age group, and also how severe it could be without any proper, care if they travel. Bar charts shows them increasing amount of people who are suffering from this disease, from dementia, from 2010 to 2040. We can see a huge jump, and it's still increasing. And facing people, they're traveling with different health and care concern and condition support. We have a new term of tourism to support this group, which is the geriatric tourism. Okay. Well, compared with wellness tourism or medical tourism, geriatric tourism is a little bit different. For those people, who are traveling, belonging to this type, they are still traveling for the normal travel motivations or purposes. For example, exploration, education, or relaxing. It's just like normal travel purposes, motivations as in their age group. But for those people to actualize those travel activities, they need some particular or additional health support or care support to allow them to enjoy as other people in their age group. So it's a little bit different about, the purpose of travel and how the industry could facilitate those people to travel out. Well, we know the trend, we know this, the group, the numbers of this population, and we know they want to travel. We also know there's a lot of other additional support they may require from our industry. So the next question for our industry, especially the survey industry, is about, are we ready to serve this age population? Okay. So what have been done within our area, and also what do they need and what's their desire when they're traveling? And are we all different stakeholders working well together to support this? And this is something we would like to know in one of the projects we have just completed 1 year ago. This project is about towards a better quality of life, value co-creation with a senior tourist. Within this research project, we aim to identify the co-creation activities and also the values between the service providers and also our senior people to see what could be generated and what do they want. And also based on that, we try to figure out how those senior people try to engage with different tourism and leisure activities and could achieve the active aging goal. Some literatures we applied from marketing management as well as gerontology discipline and try to fully understand what is needed and also what could be provided to co-create. The methodology, this one is using a qualitative approach. So we are having interviews with different parties. One party is about the senior travelers, senior tourists we find in Bournemouth, and the other part is from the industry. I also want to thank Rosie as one of our participants for this industry groups. So that's how our respondents were found. It shows a very brief view of those statistics, demographics. This is for industry interviewees. The main finding for this project is about to understand how those values could be generated in a co-creative approach. We identify different levels and different types of values. It could be functional, could be social, and could be spiritual. And within different levels, they have different specific values as well. For example, some of them could be the service providers leading value co-creation. So what does it mean? the service providers could make more efforts in actualize those value co-creation. This co-creation is not the same like every parties, if the co-creating something, they are making the same efforts, but from the customer point of view or from the customer dominant logic, we feel the customers having the leading role in co-creating value. So the service providers could actually supporting those value actualization or value co-creation. For some of the values, for example, enjoyment, connectedness, mentalities, on this side, the service providers could take a lead. For example, providing some atmosphere or environment which could encourage the senior people to enjoy their leisure time or travel. Okay, for example, learning new experiences. It could be as simple as having a comfortable, quiet corner for the senior people to read a book and have some coffee, or it could be the hotels maybe during their like a low peak or like low season time, organize some cuisine or cooking lessons, or like in China, like a Tai Chi classes, you know, those kind of things that the service providers could contribute to actualize the values. Well, for the other side, we still have values to be led by the customers. For example, the customer could feel they could really, you know, organize some tourists, some activities by themselves, so they feel very good. They could try to use the venues or use occasions to meet some new friends. Some of them even mentioned they want to meet some younger people, like in the universities. Their topics or their conversation may let them feel, you know, getting young again. And also, that's some feelings we get from our respondents. So the values could be very different, and the service providers could input different efforts to actualize, to facilitate the values to be co-created. And the final thing is about a broader society, not only the service providers, but also some other stakeholders, for example, policymakers. Do we have a proper healthcare insurance for those people to travel out? Is it inclusive and easy to handle? For destinations wide, for example, is the destination socially inclusive enough? We're seeing some senior tourists walking on the beach in Bournemouth. Are we ready to, you know, if we signal that they may need some help, are we ready to come across and maybe ask how friendly the residents are towards the senior tourists, or the accessibility, how to build the confidence for the senior people to travel here, as well as, you know, are we, the service staff, have a well prepared training about how to handling those you know, questions or these needs from our senior customers. It might be a little bit different, right? So we cannot just, you know, based on our common sense or norms to serve those people. We should have some standards or guidance to supervise our you know, staff to do a better service delivery, and so on. So that's our findings from this project about the value co-creation part. The
Later.
yes.
Thank you, Daisy. Look, we hope by that time we would have given you the article. The article has been in review for what, a year?
Yeah.
So it's on review number 5 or number 4?
3.
3, okay. So this is about to be published in a top journal in tourism. We are on revision 3, hopefully.
1 year only for one journal, but previously we also
We don't say that. We don't say that. It was rejected before. Yeah, so don't worry. Okay, so basically, if this is our elderly customers, if this is their needs and their requirements, what can the industry do? And I'll go very quickly. We've realized how important it is for people to travel, especially during COVID, because everybody was going mentally unstable during COVID. And it's very, very critical that the tourism industry can support people to actually enhance things. And for the elderly, even more, because they've got the time. They may not have all the money, but they've got the time to travel. when people are in middle ages or whatever we call this, and they've got kids at school and things like that, they cannot travel so much. The minute that they're empty nesters, they've got much more freedom and they can do all kinds of things. We have got a lot of things that we can offer, but we need some reasonable adjustments. And the reasonable adjustments are on architecture. And we've talked about accessible architecture and design for all. We've got service, we've got foods and menus. I keep going around different hotels and I say, this food has got far too much salt, far too much sugar, especially if I go in Asia, right? Thailand, Thai food's crazy. I love it, but it's crazy in terms of what it does for you. Activities, medical support, information processes, company loneliness. And this is where I'm coming into this game, smartness. How can you provide the information that the people need to find the right products and services that they can then support them to actually come and stay with us, come and engage with us? And how can you create a community through platforms where the destination is smart and it's aging friendly, and also it brings different people together to support them to create a community, particularly for those people who lose their partners. And we've seen this around for many, many years. If you are with a partner for a long period of time and one of them dies, then you've got a lot of loneliness that's happening in this business. So this back from the disability market, and this is something I created about 20 years ago, which is about the pyramid of disability. And basically what you have is that you've got all the different impairments, and then you've got from mild to very severe. By wearing glasses, you already have a mild disability as far as visual impairment is concerned. The more you go towards here, the more specialized services you need. But actually the space up to here, and especially if you understand the needs and the requirements, you can have a whole range of offerings and services that people can enjoy, and therefore they become much more friendly for this particular market group. So you go from severe to mild, and obviously we are trying to keep people active, moving, doing things, and especially on the mental health and the intellectual impairment, we're trying to keep them here as well. So dementia is mental health, isn't it?
There's
Kind
an
of.
argument for that.
Okay, you'll tell us about that in a minute, right? Okay, so minor adjustment to actually provide specialized, personalized, contextualized services to these particular needs to help these guys travel. So travel can be international, travel can be national. In a big country like the UK, you've got a fantastic opportunities to do domestic travel. If you're in a small country like Greece or some of the smaller places, you really need to go international. But here you've got the opportunity to actually do domestic travel and international travel as well. Saga is doing that well. I'm not sure if it's going to play this. Have you seen this? It's absolutely fantastic. Have you seen it? Okay. I love how cheeky it is. You think you can play? Never mind. If we don't, we'll play that later after the break. No, computer problems. Yeah, the computer professor has computer problems.
Do you want to try it again?
Yeah, try. I'm very famous for my patience.
A wonderful thing when it comes to planning a holiday. All those unforgettable moments. Those relaxing days by the pool. All those family excursions. Romantic evenings under the stars. Well, those were the days, weren't they?
Boutique cruises for those who deserve a bit of luxury. Fantastic, so cheeky, so clever.
Experience.
You want to see that again?
A wonderful thing when it comes to back a holiday. All those unforgettable moments. Those relaxing days by the pool. All those family excursions. Romantic evening.
You got the point, right?
Experience.
Okay, so co-creation is happening by bringing, so this is a project we've done with this wonderful place in Holland that is looking after dementia, people with dementia, that is bringing together healthcare architecture framework to bring a social logic of space, salutogenics, and accessibility with facilities of hospitality. My co-authors have done all this bit, and I've done this bit, because it's all about how do you create the architecture for people with dementia, or for people that they've got specific requirements, and we've provided what hospitality services do you need to have in those particular contexts. So this is the Hogeway Village. Apparently, it's a quite well-known place in Holland, which they've designed a village, and this is the design of the village, where effectively it's a prison. You cannot get out of there, but people don't know that it's a prison because it assembles a normal kind of village. So you are going through a gate to get out, and they're controlling who is going out and who is going in, but they're providing a beautiful space for people to enjoy together there. So I'm not going to go into details of that, but really when you are designing things like that, you're trying to bring together things about geriatric tourism, things about accessibility and disability, with conventional medicine, with complementary medicine and alternative medicine. And all of those things need to work together towards approaching the needs of this market. Fast forward, and I'm running out of time, and Peter is looking at that. And I noticed, because I do, it's smartness and how technology is actually bringing a whole range of new services and offers. And one of the things that technology is bringing us is it's bringing justice, not only equality, not only equity, but justice by bringing the different services to the point that they are addressing the needs of this particular individual in a personalized, individualized, and contextualized kind of way. There are a lot of developments of technology for smart homes for the elderly, where you've got a range of different assistive things that are coming into the game to provide a better living. And also a lot of the smart health and wearables are coming forward. The latest thing is all the diabetes thing that you are carrying, and you are monitoring your diabetes, your blood pressure and everything. I don't want my doctor to know, and I'm trying to get the way, but there'll be a lot of tools that are emerging through wearables. A smart aging is bringing a different kind of environment where a lot of the technologies will operate together with different services in terms of health, in terms of accessibility, in terms of diet, in terms of social inclusion, physical participation, all of those things to make sure that elderly are having a better experience. This is back to my inclusive and ambient intelligence technologies for smart tourism, which is basically you're using all the different technologies to support these people here, whoever these people are, and whatever their needs are. We are looking to what are their needs and how all the technologies around can actually support their needs there and there. I'm not going to go through all the details, but there are a lot of robots that are coming into your home to help you. And with I don't know if you've been following the artificial intelligence and what's happening, that it's learning much more. This is a minefield. I was driving this morning. I was listening all the conversations and the new regulation that's coming forward. But what we've done in another research project is looking to what people are using in their home environment in terms of robots, what are they using in hotels, and how they'll be bringing things in the middle. So if they're coming to the Marshall Court Hotel, they would bring their own music, their own television things, whatever it is, maybe from Korea, but they'll stream it to your television based on what we call profile portability. I bring my Greek music and I play it in your hotel because I don't really want to watch whatever you have got. And of course, robots are coming forward, and robots will be fun, depending on where you are coming from. So I spent some time with some Japanese guys that they were telling me that robots are going to take forward and they support all kinds of functions for the aging and all the rest of it. I said, if I give a robot to my mom, she'll crash it on my head, and that will be the end of her robot. But the Japanese apparently love robots, and they're using them for dementia and different things. So I'm just going through. So what we see is a lot of more of that, supporting technologies for different people engaging in different ways. And I'm going to go very quickly with the last research that we're doing on metaverse, and how metaverse is changing the way that we operate, that you go online, offline, online. And what is interesting with metaverse is that you collect at this stage, which is the after the trip. So you've started, okay, I need to say that properly. Okay, you've started before the trip and you've experienced various things online and in a digital kind of environment. You've selected the things that you really like to do. Then you're going on site and you are using augmented reality to augment what you've got locally. And then the next stage is that you're collecting a lot of information. Now, when you're collecting this information, you create the digital life that's parallel to the life that you live physically. Now, that is then creates on the after trip, it creates a library of images and content. In the old bad days, when I used to be a photographer, this used to be films, pictures, and albums. This is my trip to Egypt kind of thing, right? So this is going to be much more immersive, and you'll be able to re-experience things. And apparently, this morning I heard that there's a project at the university that's looking to how can you use that for dementia and for helping older people to come forward. But I don't know who is doing it, so we need to go.
So video, do you want to play that?
Huh?
Do you want to play the videos here? It's a short video about VR and the dementia.
Is there?
Yes.
Okay. So apparently they said this morning at the KTP meeting that there is a project. You're doing it. Aha.
Just what the doctor ordered.
We are on the know. We need to
For
talk.
the face masks.
That's why you're here.
He agrees.
Please don't buy it. They charge 30% of the on the people who are selling.
Cognitive impairment or dementia, but they have memories often locked deep inside their brains that they can't access. And one way to access those memories is through what we call reminiscence therapy. And reminiscence therapy, in a nutshell, is really just sitting with someone and looking at, say, images of their past, wedding photos, or images from when their children were born. And those things can spark memories that are sort of dug into the brain. And it can be very, very powerful for people to see those images and then experience the emotions around those images.
Okay, that's the end of our bit, the tourism and hospitality bit of how we see the potential of tourism and hospitality to support the active aging and how technology is coming to support us to co-create experiences and support this kind of co-creation. So we will stop here. We'll take one or two questions if you've got some burning questions. Anybody who would like to have a burning question or a non-burning question?
Got a burning statement.
I'll go for it.
Farmer Life has got a virtual reality project as well that we're running with older people for that very reason, because of course it supports and enhances the opportunity for other people to reminisce.
Fantastic.
Just so that everybody's aware of that, because it would be really good as well to be able to get that project out to others. So,
Perfect.
Clocked it.
Click, click. Wonderful. But this exactly, you know, if we bring everything together around the table, I think we all learn, and I think we really need to see where we're going next.
Other burning statement. Are you joined up with the age-friendly community work that's going across Bournemouth by certain people that is being led by Heather Olive?
Heather is online. She's actually, hi Heather, you've got some fans here.
Yeah.
They speak.
I'm a big fan of Sue as well. I can probably, if you're going to have a break, I'm going to run up and see if I can join you in person. Hello everyone. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's really lovely. I feel like I'm involved. Yes, I'm going to run up and come and find you, because I'm only maybe less than a 10-minute walk away, but I had a meeting that was running right up until 2 o'clock. So if I can, I'll run up and find you.
Why don't we stop here for 5 minutes before our colleagues are setting up, and you do fast and we do slow, and
I will be there for sure. Yes, because I
thank you, Heather. Look forward to welcome you in person. This is what it's really hybrid about, right? Okay,
Yes.
Run, Heather, run. Okay.
All right, I'm on it.
Thank you very much. Let's have a 5 minutes break until our colleagues are setting up, and then Heather is coming, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, we are back with our colleagues from the Dementia and Aging Center. I'll come closer, and Jan is going to introduce the team and is going to introduce the work that they're doing and see how we can create synergies and do nice things. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for organizing this event. I'm going to give a very brief introduction to the Aging and Dementia Research Center, and then talk a little bit about the work that I do around aging and dementia-friendly environments, because I think there are very close links to tourism. So in the Aging and Dementia Research Center, we have around 20 academics, colleagues from BU, from different departments, different faculties, all of which are interested in aging research or dementia research. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring together everyone with an interest in aging and dementia research, And we're trying to provide people with help in their research. We're trying to be there if we are approached from outside of the university and someone is interested to collaborate with us, to commission some research, interested in any project around aging and dementia. We know pretty well who the people are in the university who do aging and dementia research, and we can sign those people. Now, our mission as a research center is to deliver innovative, basic and applied research to improve the lives of older adults, people with dementia, and their families. And our research is roughly organized in 3 research themes. One is around activity and social inclusion, one around aging and dementia-friendly environments, which is what I'm going to talk about a little more, and then nutrition and well-being. And obviously, these research themes are malleable, and hopefully we have soon a research theme around aging and dementia-friendly tourism. So let me talk a little bit more about the research that I'm interested in, and I think it's really relevant for tourism, and this is about dementia-friendly architecture, and particularly about minimizing spatial disorientation in the built environment. So you may know that both spatial navigation abilities decline in older age, but in particular people with dementia, Alzheimer's disease, experience spatial disorientation. It's actually one of the earliest signs of dementia. And as psychologists and neuropsychologists, we've got a pretty good idea of why that is, because certain parts of the brain that are responsible for orientation, for navigation, for finding one's way are exactly the same brain areas that are among the first brain areas that are affected by Alzheimer's disease. These navigation difficulties or spatial disorientation are particularly pronounced in unfamiliar environments. And if you go on holiday, chances are you're in an unfamiliar environment. You may go into a hotel you've never been before. You may go to a city, a country you've never been before. So exactly those are the kind of situations where you might experience disorientation. And obviously it affects people's quality of life, their independence and well-being. And I'm going to report about an interview study we've recently finished, which really highlights that people, rather than taking the risk and being disoriented if they go someplace unfamiliar, their strategy is to avoid going to places they don't know. So if we can make sure that the travel industry ensures that environments are designed such that they help people orient to find their way, then we can maybe alleviate some of these concerns. So the overall aim and research question that we are interested in is we want to minimize spatial disorientation in the built environment. And the questions we are asking in our studies are, what are the reasons for disorientation? More importantly, what are residual navigation abilities? Because once we understand what people older age or with beginning dementia, what they still can do and what environmental features, for example, support them in their navigation, then we can enhance these environmental features to give just a very simplistic view, which may help them to orient. So the question is really, how can we design architecture? How can design and architecture compensate for declining navigation skills? And overall, we're trying to achieve this by improving aging and dementia-friendly design guidelines and design principles that we hope people adopt in order to make their environments better suited for people with dementia. So you can look at current existing aging and dementia-friendly design principles, and a lot of these principles focus, rightly so, on safety, visual appearance, because we know people with dementia often have perceptual impairments, which is something you talked about aiding memory, about personal identity. These are important, of course, not necessarily what we are focusing on. If you look through the literature, you find that very few of the existing design principles specifically address orientation or disorientation and navigation. And those that do are not very specific. Floor plans should be simple. Floor plans should be simple, but not repetitive in order to increase wayfinding abilities. I don't know whether you have explored all of the buildings here. There are some buildings that have more repetitive floor plans and our students get disoriented all the time. So it's not really specific advice for dementia. Hallways need to be clutter-free with few decision points between destinations. Again, very generic design principles. And they're not well integrated with our neuropsychological theories of navigation and dementia. And as I mentioned before, we know that specific brain areas are affected more early than other brain areas by dementia. And we know that different navigation mechanisms and strategies rely on different brain areas. So some navigation mechanisms and strategies are affected earlier than others. So what we need to do, we need to foster the ones that are not affected. So how do we approach this? We use a mixed methods approach. I've been doing quantitative experimental research for a long time, and I started working with Michele, who is a qualitative researcher, and now I'm trying to embrace interview studies and trying to capture experiences of people. I'm not good at it yet. I really rely on Michele and others to help me with that. We're using real and virtual environments. The nice thing about virtual environments is you can design the environments to exactly match the demands of the study. So if you have a hotel and you want to see how changing a particular feature in the hotel affects how people can orient in this environment, we can simulate it in a virtual environment, for example. We use eye tracking, and eye tracking is a technology that allows us to understand what people are looking at. So as people navigate through an environment, we can analyze what features of the environment they process, they take into account, and maybe what features of the environment they don't look at. Right? So there might be signage or there might be wayfinding assistance that we put in place in order to help people, and people just not look at it. So these are all things that we can study with eye tracking. We do some brain imaging, cognitive modeling, and to give you an idea of what this looks like, this is one of our virtual care homes. Some of the work we do is around improving the design in care homes. And you see this little dot here. This little dot is the position that a participant who ran the study looked at while they were traveling through space. So in a typical experiment, we would show participants a particular route. We put some landmarks in the environment. We asked them to memorize the route. And you see that participants look particularly at these landmarks. They look at other features in the environment too. And then we instruct participants to learn the route, to memorize the route. And then later on, we can ask them to either repeat the route, to draw the route, to tell us. We show them landmarks. We ask them at this particular landmark, did you turn left? Did you turn right? So this gives us some kind of idea of how participants learn routes, how participants learn to navigate unfamiliar environments, what information they memorize, what information they forget. So we've got different environments. This is another virtual environment that we used to study You Are Here maps. So when we've done our original study, we showed participants different maps of the route they've just learned, or two different routes. And we asked them, pick the map that depicts the route you've just learned. And our young participants were really good at it. Our older participants who didn't have cognitive impairments were really good at it. But our older participants who showed early signs of atypical aging, cognitive impairments, they couldn't really pick out the route, the depiction, the map-like depiction of the route that they've just learned. And so we thought, hang on, this may be a problem, right? Because in large environments, we often have these You Are Here maps. So in these You Are Here maps, now you are here, you find your target place is here. Now you have to interpret this map from a top-down perspective. You have to translate it in an egocentric perspective, and then you have to navigate the route, which is the reverse was what participants had problems with. Now we thought, if that is true, that they have problems understanding the map of a route they just learned, maybe they also have problems studying a map and then picking a route and then executing this route. And here is a former PhD student, Mary O'Malley, who is now at one of the London universities, if I'm not mistaken, and she's a dementia researcher. And with one of the participants, showed the participant the map, and we've got this virtual reality setup that gives you a really nice 180-degree field of view. Participants were studying the map, and then they instructed the PhD student how to navigate through the environment. And what we found is that our older participants who show early signs of cognitive impairments ended up more than 20 meters away from the actual endpoint. So this really seems to suggest that these kind of You Are Here maps that we often have in large unfamiliar environments are not really suited to help people with cognitive impairments, with dementia, to find their way through the environment. I'm not saying that we've got a solution, but this is certainly something we need to look at. I mentioned that we are doing interview studies now. So this is an interview study in which we were interested in what it means to live with declining navigation abilities in people's everyday lives. So we interviewed, these were telephone interviews, around 15 participants who we knew had showed early signs of atypical aging. They reported that they have memory issues. And we asked them about their experiences. And fear of getting lost turned out to be a really strong driver for behavior. So if you talk to people, and they all mentioned that they were worried about getting lost, particularly in unfamiliar environments. And as a result of declining navigation abilities, these people felt vulnerable, and they tried to maintain good psychological well-being by avoiding putting themselves into situations where they may get lost. And the avoidance strategy really was the go-to strategy. They want to avoid situations which may be disorienting. Maybe they want to avoid going on holidays to places they've never been before if they can't trust that the environment is set up such that people can maintain orientation. And they also like to avoid responsibility for orientation. You mentioned that people, when their partner dies, they don't like to go out. It's typically the men who die earlier. And quite often women have given up responsibility for navigation to their men. And this is something else that came out of the study, that people really want to avoid taking responsibility for navigation, especially if they've never trained to do so. And they really want to have a family member who takes responsibility for orientation along ideally. So people were actually prepared to give up independence and accept that their world is getting smaller. And this is a concept that comes, the shrinking world phenomenon is a concept that comes from dementia research, where people, when they develop dementia, are doing less and less and less, and their world is really shrinking, getting smaller, and to avoid the psychological harm that's associated for getting lost. Again, just to highlight how important it is that we design environments such that they help people maintain a good sense of orientation. So I'll stop here and just say a couple of words. There are places here that you might recognize. So a few years back, we had a research project, and we set up the so-called Impact to Advisory Board. And this is how we did knowledge exchange, because a lot of our research is really very fundamental and research, and it's hard to understand how results from this research can be translated into real-world settings. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring together, in this case, it was about care homes, care home managers, care and retirement home developers, architects, interior designers, the Alzheimer's Society, talk through our research findings and think about how we can translate these fundamental research findings into guidelines that are actually fit for purpose. And again, this seems to be a group where we could do exactly this really successfully. So how do we translate research findings into improved design guidelines? And just to summarize, to improve aging and dementia-friendly design guidelines, a particular focus in our research is to minimize spatial disorientation in the built environment. We investigate reasons for disorientation in both typical aging and atypical aging. We provide the evidence base to improve the existing design guidelines. And I see it very much as us having to build bridges between our neuropsychological evidence and theories and the aging and dementia-friendly design guidelines. And that is me. Thank you very much.
I like this, but can we have another bridge on the tourism hospitality?
Yeah,
Let's
build more bridges,
because
interconnected bridges.
And I cannot resist saying that what I've learned from when my mother deteriorated before her death is, and when I was looking for care homes, I just saw life from the beginning to the end. And what I've realized is that a lot of people are towards the end of their life has got very similar needs to the people at the beginning of their life. So when you're talking about disorientation, I was thinking from a tourism point of view, Bournemouth or Bournemouth Council or a hotel can actually bring 2 or 3 people who do what we call kids club for the elderly. So there may be 2 or 3 people who take you for a nice tour of the gardens, and they're having lunch or whatever in a very similar way, like when today I was downstairs here with the kids club, and the nice people, they were taking the kids around. It's a very similar way. You can do that with elderly in a exactly the same way.
Can I add to that, that we've already got that, it's basically memory lane groups.
Oh, fantastic.
Which are available for people who are living with dementia or memory loss. Same kind of thing, because dementia actually creates what is known to the clinicians as a rollback memory. So they do all regress backwards to the areas of their brain where they have come from, if you want. And actually, everything that goes on a dementia, a memory lane group, actually appreciates that and delivers a program of activities that relate to 50 years ago.
Fantastic. Let me turn it around. How can Rosie, who has got a nice hotel, that has got a lot of time, but it's an empty restaurant, be part of this, help you, help her?
Rosie is already part of this. Rosie did an
Okay, I'm redundant.
Just ask, bring it up a point, sorry to confront you. I'm very interested in the way that you have found that people will navigate an unfamiliar environment. Now, hotel chains like Premier Inn, where you have the identical room, no matter where you go, you know where it is, which is brilliant. And there are other chains that do the same thing. Now, part of the thing about the map or back to the door, that is actually governed by health and safety regulations. So however much they want to make it dementia friendly, under the terms of their insurance and what they're required to do, they couldn't do it because it would be breaking the law. So do you have any plans to talk to government, but to insurance companies, to make them realise that that standard map is not always helpful?
So
That looks like a no.
that
Or not
is,
yet.
that is a no at this point. So first of all, we're talking about a few isolated studies. So I think the first thing that we need to make sure is that these findings generalized properly. The second thing is, of course, that we are mostly concerned with this fundamental research. So what you're talking about is the entire knowledge exchange that happens afterwards. So, and this takes up a lot of time and a lot of effort, and they typically don't have this in our workload. So this is, but this is an opportunity, these kind of meetings, to make people aware of this and to then become involved in such decisions. But to be honest, we are not paving the way for this. We are providing the evidence that hopefully other people take up. We are happy to support this transition, but we are not the ones who are initiating this. On the other hand, just because you have to have this map for legal reason doesn't mean that you could have additionally better navigation assistance. So it's not an exclusion, doesn't prevent you from providing additional navigation assistance or wayfinding assistance that might actually have solved the problem.
Have you done anything at the moment in terms of looking at what the work that you do and relationship to other neurological disorders? So where you've got, for example, people with learning difficulties who may be having the same sorts of spatial awareness issues, but they could be very young. So there's a lot of relationship, I would imagine, between aging and different other types of neurological disorders. So the interventions that you're trying to look for are equally applicable across a much broader population than purely the age.
Absolutely, but again, it is a question of resources. I mean, it's doing this line of research fills up all of our time. So then looking at other patient groups, other user groups would require us to have the manpower.
I just wondered if there were other research organisations that were looking at those with those other neurological disorders.
Yeah, I mean, there are colleagues who focus on different types of disorders, and they all have an interest in spatial navigation orientation, and they would test different user groups or different participant groups. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's hear from Michele, and then we are easing going into the conversation. Okay.
So I kind of overlap a little bit, but my name is Michele Board. I'm an associate professor in nursing older people. It's been my area of nursing practice for a long time, and looking after older people and people with dementia. So I'm just going to give a slightly broader, but then narrow it down perspective on older people and people with dementia and how it's dementia and its relevance for us all, actually. So I want us to think about who are older people, what's normal aging, and what is dementia. So it's quite a lot to cover in 15 minutes. So it's a lick of the lolly, people, and the impacts of dementia, and then considerations of what's that got to do with tourism, for example. Obviously, I think quite a lot, actually. So I need your phones out, people, and I want you to, if you can, to scan this or go to mentimeter.com and type in that code. So if you can just scan that if you're willing to, because I'm going to ask you a question, if you wouldn't mind engaging. And the question is, you know, what words are you, when we talk about older people, what words are used? When I say older people, who are you thinking about? What are those words that we use to describe older people?
What do I press on my phone? Are you under?
I'm not really an
Amanda.
IT person.
Amanda, how?
Yeah.
A good example.
Yeah, so then you'll just start, yeah, hold it there, it'll come up. And then you might get an option to say something about
Mental.
venting exam.
Touch on. There you go.
And you've got a question?
No, Safari cannot.
No, because you're not connected to the internet.
Oh, yeah, this building.
Words to me as well, so that will work.
I'll take them in, I can take them for you.
Yeah,
Grandmother.
and some people got it, and some people got some words, yeah? Can you just put your hand up if you have got some words, because I don't know if they'll go to the results or not, we'll be influenced by that. Okay, shall I just give you another minute to have that a go?
Oh, I failed to even get onto the internet.
That's fine, I actually, it's important, that's
I
more
can
important in this
put
building.
words.
So yeah, words are good.
Yeah.
Okay, words are good. Okay, then let's just see if there are some results from people. Let's just see if the technology works for me to show some results. Oh, but actually, before I do that, shout out some other words, people. When I say older people, what words come into your head?
Blue Rinse Brigade.
Blue Rinse Brigade,
Wisdom.
wisdom,
Grandmother.
grandmother,
Parents.
parents, wisdom,
Wisdom.
wisdom. Anything else?
Family.
Family. Okay.
Benevolent.
Pardon? Benevolent. Okay.
Experience.
Experience.
That's it.
So this is what some other people have put down when we talk about older people, parents, older people, aging, dementia. Pardon?
There's only one response. They're basically
Yeah. So, and you've said other words. And it's interesting, the discourse we use about older people. And I really think we need to think about, when we think about tourism, the discourse we use to describe older people. Is it elderly? Older people don't like that. Is it geriatric? Older people don't like that. Is it us? Nobody's put me up there. And every one of you in this room is aging. Every single one of you.
Getting there.
No, you all are. And it isn't any point of denying it. Would you argue, would you agree that perhaps in this country, in certain cultures, this country, that we have a negative image about what aging? You know, and we do have this, you know, we have this negative image, and it's others. It's my grandmother, it's my parents, it's others. It's definitely not me. And we need to think about this embracing the whole population when we're thinking about tourism. Quite significantly, because it's not a homogenous group that we're talking about, and I'm going to say that several times. Now, the Department of Health, this will make some people in the room wince, define older people as aged 50 plus. The World Health Organization, 60 plus. Now, if I was to bring, I say this to my students and 18, 19, 20-year-olds, if I was to bring a youngster in, they're going to go, you're really old. In fact, one of my great nephews or nieces said to me the other day, I said, how old do you think? I said, I'm going to be a grandma soon, which is very exciting, I might add. I said, how old do you think I am to one like, and they said 25. I mean, obviously they had whatever they wanted in the shop. But there's some of these barriers. So I think, there's quite a huge range, isn't it? Our average life span now is increasing. So at 82, I think, for women. So it's a bit 30, that's a big gap of 32. We're not all the same. And so catering for that audience is absolutely massive. You talked about this group, there was a triangle that would fit in well, I think, and have lots of income. And of course, people have different incomes in those age groups as well. I'm making sure I stick to my notes to not go off a tangent. So see some of the statistics that we know. This is for the Centre of Aging Better. And we've got an increasing number of people that are aged over 65. How fantastic is that? How often do we hear how fantastic is that? The fact that we're living longer, and what we want to have is a longer, healthier life. And what are the attributes that make us live a longer, healthier life? Isn't it something that we should celebrate? And often when we talk about a discourse and how we describe older people, it's in a negative way. We talk about the demographic time bomb. And people then, that's why they might become more isolated, because I'm that age group. And perhaps in widowhood, that people think, I haven't got someone to go out with now. And how do I, is that embracing that age group that we need to consider? So what is aging? Now, aging is a normal development process and refers to the process of accruing maturity, like a good wine with the passage of time. These two people are both aging. She is a week old, I think less than a week old. We'd look at this picture and say, this is an older woman, she's frailer, she's, coming towards the end of her life. But actually, it was this baby that was in hospital 10 hours later, undergoing heart surgery, nearly died. I know these people because this is my mum and my great niece Tilly, who's 15 and is fantastic. So it begins with conception aging, conception. So healthy aging is influenced by what happens when we're in the uterus. Think about it. And it continues throughout our lives. And it's inevitable to all things. Again, something to celebrate. And we'll come back to this lady in a moment. She's my case study that I refer to. She does pose for these photographs. In normal aging, this is what we're all doing. There are these normal deteriorative processes that are happening to all our organs. So, for example, I dye my hair just this Friday. It's like a mop at the moment. Graying hair, menopause, our skin elasticity changes. Our hearts don't work as well as they did. Our kidneys don't work as well as they did as we age. What age does aging start happening? Anybody come in with their buzzers? Pardon? What age? I'm missing it. Birth? Yeah. Yeah, it does. We're aging from the start, but those aging processes start at age 25. There you go. You all feel a little bit sick now. There are things that you can do to slow down that deterioration. And that's where these healthier lifestyles can have an impact and enable you to do that. And that's something to consider as well when we're thinking about what tourism activities would we have that would enable people to make the most of normal aging. Now, these physiological changes only have a problem during illness. So if you get an illness as you get older, then that external stress or that internal stress becomes a problem. And I liken this to perhaps when you were 18, if you had a drink and you say, I could drink all night, it's absolutely fine, I don't get a hangover at all, it's fine, never get a hangover. And then you get to a stage in your life, I think, I'm never drinking again. And those hangovers are worse. Maybe that's a stretch, but your ability to fight disease as you get older, you don't have the reserve capacity to fight it. And so therefore it's making those environments, not exposing people. So COVID was a big thing. So there's a lot of criticism we could say about how we isolated older people, very bad in nursing homes, in my opinion. But there's going to be another COVID. So what are our plans for that population? And I like to think of this. I love this picture of, you know, inside all us is Strictly Come Dancing. And then I saw a YouTube clip the other day. I don't know if anyone else saw it. A 91-year-old and a 94-year-old dancing. Amazing. She was doing drops and everything. I have no idea. I don't dance, but there we go. So in normal aging, there's a risk of frailty because of these external insults, such as illness, a chest infection, that inhibits our bodies to maintain homeostasis. And those are the challenges of aging. There's things that you talked about with the illnesses that we need to take into account. So back to the case study, and I'm going to illustrate this back to my mother. She posed for this as part of the population that, you know, the pyramids that you were showing, that we've got, particularly in this area, but in the country, those aged over 65 are growing, the baby boomers, but a big growth, particularly locally, are those aged over 80. So we may think of this population, maybe, you know, newly retired, maybe fit and well. But of course, we've got this older population too. So she's representative of this older population. She's 93. She lives with my sister in a bungalow, and she's a person living with frailty. So she needs a bit of assistance around the home now and getting out and about. She had 8 children. If you haven't got 8 children, you've not had enough. If my mum's anything to go by, you need to have a lot more children, people, to look after you. And she's got lots of comorbidity. She's got heart problems. She's lost the sight in one of her eyes. She's had most of her joints replaced. When she goes through at the airport, all the alarms are singing. So she's got lots of things wrong with her. She's very fortunate that she had the 8 children, because she lives with one of our sisters, and the rest of us are like honeybees around the Queen to make sure that she's okay. But as I say, that she's just an example of this older person. So what we need to think about, what do older people want to do? And that's where this asking older people, what is it you want to do? That inclusivity, absolutely essential. We can't make assumptions about what it is that older people want to do. And so I've given you some examples of what this older lady likes to do. So this is her flying a kite.
What's your name?
Eiling.
Eiling.
So Eiling is flying a kite here. This is in October. We went for a picnic in the forest. Of course, she likes the beach, fish and chips on the beach to make her accessible. And this is with one of her great nieces, great grandchildren, and Betsy is showing how to do the exercises. And the point I want to illustrate with here is intergenerational relationships, really important. The older people just don't want to associate with older. None of us want to associate with older people, do we? Even if I am that older person, you know, but we want intergenerational relationships. And again, my case study, Eileen, my mum, is an example of that intergenerational relationships. But getting outdoors, accessibility is really important. Now, I've wheeled mum down to the beach now, mobility is a bit poor, and this became really difficult when the sand's like that. It becomes very difficult. I didn't
need a beach wheelchair.
Yeah, but my mum's not old. That's for other people. She doesn't think she's old. She won't even let me get a wheelchair. I have to borrow one because she won't let me get a wheelchair for. But she also does the air show, loves the air show, absolutely thinks it's the best. But you'll see here, she's got the pendant on because when she's worn it out, it's no good there, and she's with us. But when she's at home alone, she needs to have some way to call. So it goes to your technology. So if I'm on a hotel, I'm going to call and summon help. And we're at the New Forest Show. Absolutely rubbish accessibility, the New Forest Show. I was exhausted that day pushing that wheelchair, pulling, actually, it was the only way I could get it round. Although the disabled loo was the best I've ever seen. But, you know, it was very interesting. But just because she's living with frailty doesn't mean she isn't living. Now, this was 5 years ago when she said, I'm going to Texas, because my sister was living there. And I said, I need a photo by the space shuttle. She said, get me out of the wheelchair. She got the photograph by the wheelchair. So her sense of adventure, despite living with frailty, doesn't diminish. So I won't do the quiz thing because that didn't work so well. So when I say dementia, so that's aging. So aging is happening to all of us, not a homogenous group. But if I say dementia, what words come into your head? Come in with your buzzers anytime. Dementia, memory loss, restriction, disorientation, confusion, darkness, fear, creature comforts, anything else when I say dementia springs to mind, or what you read in the papers.
Anger.
Anger, frustration. Demented, people talk about. They say they're demented. Don't talk about me like.
And also the other issue is that you've got the person with dementia, and then you've got relatives, all the other people that are around. It's not only the person.
Absolutely. People with dementia say that. They say it affects, doesn't just affect me, it affects my carers. Go back to mum, she lives with my sister. My mum's now got Alzheimer's, I might add. And she needs, you know, it affects my sister living with her 24/7, even though the rest of us are like honeybees. But if the discourse around aging is negative, the discourse around dementia is very negative. And, you know, and I've assessed and worked with people in the memory clinic, and I said, do you want to know the diagnosis? If, you know, they get, or if we tell them the diagnosis, say it's dementia, thank goodness. I thought you were going to say Alzheimer's, or you say it's Alzheimer's, and they go, thank goodness. I thought you were going to say dementia. I've seen people in the memory clinic and they say, he won't let me tell anybody that he's got dementia. So there's a negative discourse when we talk about dementia. So we need to challenge that and talk about it positively. Just if you don't know this, dementia is an umbrella term for a range of symptoms associated with a cognitive impairment. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia, and then vascular dementia, which I'll prevent a little bit, and other forms of dementia. It is associated with the memory loss, the communication difficulties, and increasingly the ability to carry out activities of daily living. Doesn't mean you can't though. I'm a rehab nurse. I want to make people better. I want to make them clean, happy and healthy and do everything for them. Wrong thing to do. And I'm the worst around my mum. I'm like this, trying to stop her from falling. I'm absolutely desperately bad. But with dementia, there are all these things associated with dementia, but it's about what does remain. And what remains is now. This moment and how you're responding to me. So joy, happiness, the interactions you have with another stays with that person. So if you think of people with the VR, and so if they're experiencing joy at that moment, that feeling stays. If I'm doing a singing for the brain session or singing, that feeling stays. And it's not all Vera Lynn people. It's the range of, find out what sort of music people like. And so people respond to the emotions around them. So we've been evaluating a VR app around education, and one of them is a shop scene, and the shop assistant gets really hacked off with the person with dementia. And everyone's going, oh, she's so rude. And that then makes that person more anxious. And so that's where education becomes really important, to give people time and not say jump in if they're finding difficulty with the words that, you know, word finding. And I don't know if anyone's prepared to say what they're like if they're under stress, or how they behave if you're really stressed. Anyone prepared to say what if you're really, really stressed, really, really anxious, how does it affect your behavior? Anybody? Narky?
I become more logical.
More logical. Okay.
Structured.
Yeah. Okay. More structured, more logical. But the defenses we retreat to with the dementia remain. So if I get moody, if I withdraw, or if I lash out, that retains with a person with dementia. And so it's knowing that person is really important. I want to show you a quick video, which I think is absolutely delicious, and it emphasizes the importance of intergenerational work.
Hello, hello.
Give me 5.
How old are you?
I'm 60, I think.
You sometimes do silly things.
I put milk in the washing machine.
You still go out on dates.
On dates? No, I go to buy dates, but
Left my house with ugly trousers. And
What was she like when you were a teenager?
sometimes I was good, sometimes I wasn't. I had a lot of boyfriends.
Can you still kiss people when you have Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
Did you die pink because you have dementia?
That's a very good question.
I know. Yeah. Do you know how babies are made?
your wife, Vivian, the boss.
Do you ever get lonely?
Yes, I do. Very, very low. I'm on my own now. I have to make the best of it. I know that one day I'm going to wake up and not know who anyone is.
Do you have any life advice for me?
My advice would be,
Have you forgotten?
I have, yes.
Make sure you tell the people that you love them.
Treat every moment as always you last.
Little boys.
It's been nice talking to you.
Did anything strike you about that film? Pardon?
Why haven't more people seen it?
Right, and
Why
that-
wasn't it used in an Alzheimer's charity?
It is an Alzheimer's Society video. It is an Alzheimer's Society video. It's produced by the Alzheimer's Society.
Be on TV.
Isn't it fantastic? But it challenges our perceptions of dementia, that it's of different age groups, that people can still converse and engage, and the honesty of children. You're always struck by that. How delicious is that intergenerational aspect? So to summarize, we're all aging people. You can't get away from it. How fortunate are we? Sense of purpose is so important, as well as choice and agency to choose what I do and how I do it. My mum still wants to go on holiday all the time, but she's now more fearful about airports. It took 7 of us to take her to Ireland last year, and we had to go twice because someone died when after we got back. But that's a long story, and I haven't got the time for that today. The narrative around aging and dementia is very important, and we create a positive narrative about that. It's not a homogenous group, and if we're working with people, it's about raising that awareness, understanding about what positive aging is and what positive living well with dementia is. I'm going to pause there. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Michelle, who's going to carry on our last lecture in the Aging Dementia Research Centre.
Did anyone want to ask any questions for Michelle before I get going? Okay. Thanks, Michelle. So I love that video of the kids. It's great, isn't it? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about involving older people and people affected by dementia within research. So I'm Michelle Heward. I'm a lecturer in the psychology department, and I'm the service user and carer involvement lead for the Aging and Dementia Research Centre. So I wouldn't say that we're there 100%, but we're doing lots of different, we're using lots of different approaches, and we're using lots of different methods to try to engage with more local and national people, older people and people affected by dementia within our research. But I just thought it'd be helpful to share those approaches and some of the things that we do with you. Okay, so why do we involve members of the public in research? Well, probably all of us in the room have a different perspective on a research topic based on our experiences and you know, the life world that we come from. And so it's important that we're trying to engage with people that may be the end users of our research, or not just at the beginning stage, at the end stages of our projects. It's important in terms of making that research relevant and making that contribution and thinking about impact, which is something that we have to do at the university. Thinking about the impact of our research on society and making sure that people affected by that research have a right to contribute and come into that research. So thinking about funding as well, particular funders are quite keen for us to do that, and there is for particular funders we have to show that we've engaged with particular groups of people and ask them about the particular kind of reasons why that research might be important. So there are a number of reasons why we would engage with members of the public in our research. But I guess the kind of key message is about working together to develop to work out the problems and develop those solutions to those problems. Okay, so what can older people and people with dementia contribute to research? So there's an ethos around nothing about us without us. And I don't know, probably some of you might be more familiar about that terminology coming from mental health background. That is kind of a big area that we shouldn't be conducting research without involving the people that it impacts on the most. And it's that lived experience, and we might use the term experts by experience, that we can really draw from, and that can really challenge our assumptions about a particular topic, about a particular area that we might be thinking in research. Perhaps there's a new or a different perspective that we haven't considered, and I'll share with you some of the perspectives that we get from people in our coffee mornings a bit later, and how that kind of impacts on our research. But thinking about the research design, is it going to work? That's kind of one thing that we can go to people and we can ask them, is this approach going to work? Are these the right questions that we're asking? Should we do this in a different way? So these are all things that we can learn together and develop together in terms of that kind of shared understanding. So I'm going to try and play a video. Bear with me, there isn't a link there. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry, Michelle, it's on your.
Just click on the video. Things will
Okay. Oh, is it?
Thing.
No, I don't think it is.
Copy paste that.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Oh, bear with me a second.
I think you'd have to copy and paste it.
Yeah.
Just
bear with me a second. Sorry about this.
All the videos have been excellent so far.
So just before I play the video, I'd just like to explain a little bit about the video. So this was a project that we undertook quite a few years ago now, actually, probably about 2014. And we were talking to people with dementia and carers about their experiences. It is a diagnosis and post-diagnostic support. And they shared their experiences, and they were happy to be filmed as part of this video. But I'd just like to share with you this video now. So hopefully you'll like it. Hopefully it's going to work. Haven't got any sound, have we?
Is your home dropping hints? Make a mint with Vincent. Sell your items and make.
Living Well with Dementia in Dorset. People talking about their experiences of dementia.
I knew there was something not quite right in me. That's quite true. It's very hard, very unsettling. Initially, it was an awful shock. I didn't understand it.
When they say you've got something, can't really define it.
I'm waiting to see, for it to get worse, which is terrible, really.
He cried, and I said, look, it's with two of us in this.
The diagnosis was very quick, very accurate, and it took us about 4 months. In a way, it was a relief because it explained all my problems. The consultant we saw gave us a wonderful piece of information. He said, now I've diagnosed you, he said, forget what I've said, forget you've seen me and go and get a life.
We've carried on much the same as we were before.
I didn't know anything about you. Didn't even bother to look it up on the Google. And then eventually we did. And rang up the Alzheimer's Society and then started getting involved with Memory Cafe and our Scenes of the Brain and all those things.
My work has been amazing. My boss has been so supportive. Work helps keep my brain active, and as everybody says, keep your brain active.
It's been so gradual, the decline.
5, 8, 40, 9, 81. There isn't anything bother, you can spell. Something has triggered it off. So it takes a time to level off, a period of time to come through things.
I need shorter sentences, I need simple sentences, I need time to absorb what's being said.
He can enjoy a film. As soon as he's walked out, he hasn't a clue where he's been even. And he can't remember anything, nothing's going in at all. But he can enjoy something while it's happening. I think he should be more open, like cancer's become more open at one time. My mother wouldn't say the word, she'd say it's not cancer. Or she go see like that. She wouldn't speak as if it got bad luck. And I think dementia has been similar to that. I think it should be more open.
Really, it will have to come from the people who have got it.
Yes. whatever that person does to make you angry or frustrated, it's not the person, it's the illness. And if you can handle that I know it's hard because I'm there. But you just got to stick with it.
I think you've got to stay positive. I love him very much, which sounds a bit soft at my age, but it's what makes things possible.
Here at the Bournemouth University Dementia Institute, we are passionate about
anymore. Just to let you know, it was a while ago. It was anyone want to share how that made them feel? In that video?
I think it just lets you dive in, doesn't it? And just put yourself, I don't know, just gives you the story, doesn't it? And more personal.
Yeah. Yeah. So did anyone take a while to work out, particularly in some of the couples, which was the person that had dementia and which was the carer, from what they were saying? I know some people have said that to me before. So sort of challenging our sort of assumptions. I mean, how do we know? We did lots of projects about this when years ago. How do we know who, which person's which, and how do we respond to them accordingly? So yeah, so interesting that we can sort of use these approaches and to help us to understand. So just in terms of research, an approach that we're starting to sort of use more and more within the ADRC is something called co-production, and I think that might be similar to your co-creation. So maybe there's something about language that we need to think about in terms of approaches as well when we're working through this, using terminology that's going to kind of work for everybody. But so co-production, so this is something that's really recently been published this year by the Dementia Inquirers, who are a group of people with dementia and carers who've developed this kind of gold standard, they call it, for co-research. So co-production is about involving people in the research process from the very beginning and developing and shaping ideas from the very beginning. So not that I go to them and say, this is my idea, how can you contribute? That we all sit in a room and that we all develop ideas together and bringing in different stakeholders with those carers and service users is kind of really important. And this document gives a process and outlines how people with dementia would like that process to work. So it's quite a useful one. But it's about kind of shaping from the beginning of the project and developing a project based on those approaches. So how do we involve people with dementia and older people within our research in the ADRC? So some of you from Bournemouth University might be familiar with this, but it's about the research cycle. So the research cycle might start with an idea about the research, thinking about then how the process might then work, how are we going to collect that data, all the way through to having the data, analysing the data, and then publishing that data and the impact that kind of comes from that. So we're thinking about how we can involve people at different stages within that research cycle. So not just at the end of the project as a participant. So I'm not just going to interview somebody with dementia. How am I going to get them involved in that wider process where it's kind of relevant? You might have seen this picture already. we didn't confer about this, Jan, did we? But I just thought it's a slightly different angle, but the same study. But just to say that we do include people as participants, and that was kind of our starting point, really. We have sort of a number of projects from the experiments that Jan's talked about to interviews to kind of anything in between, really. Lots and lots of different types of studies. And some of those are voluntary opportunities and some of those are paid opportunities, but obviously that is dependent on the funding. So that is one way that we can involve people right at the end of that process. Thinking about developing ideas and shaping research, though, is something that we're starting to do more of. And so we've developed these monthly coffee mornings, and we started them during COVID. So they began as a virtual kind of initiative. But we are starting to have several face-to-face ones occasionally now to break that up and so that we get to actually meet people as well. But the idea behind these coffee mornings originally was that we invite older people from the community who are interested in research to come along, to listen, to share, to even identify areas for their own research if that's something that they would like to do, but to feed back on study ideas at the beginning, and also maybe as people go through that journey with the research, so that they could hear about the progress and the findings from those projects. So I'm going to pick on Susan, because I know that you have been along to one of our coffee mornings and you used that. Would you mind just sharing slightly a little bit about how you shaped your idea after you went to the coffee morning?
Yeah, certainly. So I went in with an idea, just thinking about, background. My background's exercise physiology, how to keep people fit and active in older age, thinking about the body more so than the mind. I know it's not onto like, but my focus is on the body. And I wanted to just understand, so I had an idea that I just wanted to go and understand what people felt about, it was more about falls actually. Is there enough resources in the community for people that are maybe worried about falls and the risk of falls? Because that's one of the biggest barriers to exercise participation. And walking about, engaging with the environment, is the risk of falls. So I went in and just put my idea forward and just said, what do we think about Bournemouth as a place? Have I got this right? Is this something that people are worried about? I just literally put open questions. Is there something that needs to be done about you? Would you want somewhere that you can maybe think about getting assessed for fall risks and all that? So just put loads of ideas forward and came out of that thinking, okay, I've got some, I might have something here. Took it from there, and then took it a wee bit. So from that, then asked for some interviews, so a bit more in-depth interviews with quite a few of the volunteers, to again just to dig a bit deeper for some of the points that came in. That then worked together for me to put in a grant for just a starter grant. I know Daisy, it's the same one as you're thinking of as well. It's a starter grant, and we got so that built up the narrative of there's something here, there. But what I did was went back and just shared the more developed thoughts with the group to see if it was coherent with their ideas. It was great because that was actually one of the feedback when I got the grant, was how much it was developed informally. To be fair, it wasn't as structured. But then going back again and telling them I got the grant and what we're going to do with it, and then the next stage and how we'd worked it. And so they helped inform the idea. They helped the success of the grant. And then go back to them. So I think sometimes we forget, like, we've got the grant. So just by telling them our journeys, our questions, it was really, really useful. Challenging our perceptions on it.
Yeah, so we host these monthly, and we have a different person coming to speak every month, and the next one is April the 12th with Chantal Cox talking about frailty. It's just an hour session, and we're starting to see a few more professionals from practice starting to come to some of these meetings as well, if it's something that they might be interested in. So yeah, just one way that we would share our ideas and help to inform that. Yes.
So during the sections, you're inviting those residents as well?
Yeah, so there's a core kind of group. So we have quite a few people who come along to every meeting and are really engaged in research, and so some of them have been participants in some of our studies. So going back to that first stage of study participants, some of them have been involved, come in to do an experiment, and then they're really keen to sort of be involved and just share their thoughts and ideas. And so that's the way that we've kind of progressed things to be able to share that experience, and so I'd say there's a core group of people, older people that are from the local community, and then we do have some people who just come when the topic is of interest, and others who kind of come almost every time. So it's a mixture, and then obviously there are people who are linked with that particular project for that particular month as well, and some of us that are facilitating the sessions as well. So it's really informal. People can use like slides or just talk about a topic, videos, whatever's going to work.
So we had to give a question.
So really it's I mean, obviously they're being there. It's not official PPI because they're not being paid to be there. It is more of a social opportunity to ask questions. But you had some funding, I believe, to be able to support.
We did proper PPI, but that was just for me a bit of a captured audience to just test the ideas and taking up my questions for when I went into the proper PPI. So I used that as an opportunity, just as a sort of, just I'm on the right grounds here and before getting into it.
Before moving into that stage, because we would obviously advocate that you would pay people for their time and their contribution if it was full PPI. Something else that we started to do as well in some of our funded projects, we have advisory boards, and there might be a PPI representative on that board, or there might be a group that is just a PPI group. So for a project that I'm doing around technology, that's the one that Dimitrios was mentioning. So I've got a group of people with dementia and carers, and then some care home staff who we meet together. It's part of the funding. I've got the money to be able to support their involvement, and it's kind of they're involved at different stages within that process, and we meet together and we discuss different parts of the project. So really it's just thinking about how you might want to involve people in those discussions and carry on those discussions throughout the project, not just to shape the idea initially, but it's shaping. So for instance, I've given people my survey, and they're looking at the survey questions and we're discussing them together. I've asked them about validated scales and which ones they prefer, for example. So you can sort of bring in any part of the research project within those discussions.
I had them look at, so I put a resource booklet together, one in mine. Oh my goodness. I was all very proud of it, but it's so wrong. But that's good, because if people are going to engage with my information booklet, the team that I work with pretty much rewrote it for me, which was just because they were like, I use that word, don't use that word, right?
So all the way through, it's just kind of sense checking, isn't it, with you know, a group of people that may, and you can involve, you know, professionals as well within that group, and obviously stakeholders in the room that might like to be involved in that way in projects as well. So that's something that as we're sort of thinking about how we collaborate and work together in the future, that there may be opportunities for people to be involved in research in that way as well. Moving on to something that I'm just starting to kind of develop, and that's developing a pool of older people as co-researchers. And this is, I've got some money from the British Society of Gerontology to run an event in July. Now, at the moment, I just have the event date, so I will be able to provide more information. I've got a meeting next week to start to think about this. But the idea behind the event is really to share research and to think about how we might start to have people that are really interested. And again, it's not going to be relevant for all of the older people and people with dementia that we have engaging in our project and engaging in those discussions, but for some of them, and I can think of a few already that I know are going to be really keen to be involved as co-researchers. And going back to the idea around co-production, having people involved in and perhaps the idea, so the idea for my digital project, for example, came from a family carer initially, and then we developed the idea together. So it's thinking about how we can use that knowledge and use those kind of probing questions that people might have, how we can use that and bring that together and give people the skills to be able to help support with the research and direct the research in a way that they would like it to be directed. So that's something that's in development. And if anyone wants more information about that, I'm gladly share that with you once I've worked on it. So yeah, that's just my contact details there, and our webpage as well if anyone's interested.
Thank you, Michele. Would you like to say a few words on the?
I'll just 1 minute, because I'd just like to share what my department do. So, go back to people. So I'm head of department for rehab and sports sciences, and we're very much, we've heard about the we've got psychologists in the room, we've got neurologists, we've got the nursing side of things. We're very much interested in the body, or most of us, I'd say 80% of our work is keeping ourselves physically healthy as we get older. Now, there's two things that really excite me. There's two things that really excite me about these discussions is that, I'm looking at yourself, Heather, because we've got such a great platform for people to be active of all ages. We've got the beachfront, we've got all the parks, it's such a fantastic location to keep people active. Why are people not engaging as much with the environment? There's lots of factors, but the main one is the roads have to be great. People are scared of falling. If people are scared about the physical environment, they're not going to engage in it. Jan said about the directions and wayfinding. We've got a lot of work to do to make things accessible for all people to get about and feel confident. And if we're thinking as well about people who are recovering, let's just say from a stroke, for example, just one example, we've got if we've got all these empty hotels sitting empty in the winter, there's very little spaces, physical spaces for rehabilitation, physical rehabilitation or cognitive rehabilitation. And is there something about utilising these, so part B, is there something about utilising these spaces to have a non-medicalised rehabilitation to get people active? And it might be intense stuff inside a hotel, for example, or set up, but then taking people outside to the outside environment. Look at all the hotels at the beachfront there. So is there something about training up the cognitive and the body after a stroke, after being discharged from hospital, for example? And it's that stepping stone to get their confidence up, to get their abilities up. So when they go home, they have that, they will increase that confidence, because we know people are scared of falling. We know people are scared of getting lost. So it's breaking down those barriers. But for me, I think I'm actually really, really excited to talk to Daisy before about it. I think there's something really special.
Also with swimming, for example, I was talking to somebody else who was talking about the fact that after stroke, the person was a very avid swimmer, but the first time he went into swimming, couldn't move the coordination between hands and legs. So it was literally sitting there for 10 days trying to paddle that the person was then able to learn to swim. So again, with the hotels, you have the swimming pool accessibility there.
So I think there is thought about how to make it work, but I definitely think there's something with the work you're doing, Heather, as well, and the work that you guys, and hopefully we can offer the expertise as what's needed. There's definitely something there.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Well done. Okay. Now I'll be a little bit selfish and bring it back to tourism and hospitality, because that's why we're here. Otherwise, we would have, so it's a combination of 2 or 3 things. I really want to bring Rosie and Heather in, because from the industry point of view, what do you think we should be doing? Is this an opportunity? What is the things that you're doing already? What do I learn from that? What is your wish? How can we do research? And how can we get some research money to actually work together with all the colleagues to make sure that that creates value for you at the regional level, the council, and also the micro level, the businesses, the hotels, the restaurants, all the things that we can actually benefit from this.
Me to speak or have?
You choose the order.
Lovely.
Go for it, Rosie. Let me turn around, and so you can be in the frame, if we can be on the frame.
Well, hotel wise, I have to say I'm very proud of what we've accomplished at the hotel. We are one of the most accessible hotels in the country at the moment. We have a full changing places and shower facility. We have a sensory room for neurodiverse abilities. We have 5 bedrooms as at the end of last month, which have ceiling hoists, profiling beds, and full wet rooms. We offer shower commode chairs, aqua straps, tilting shower commode chairs. We also have leveled the whole front of the hotel and raised the terrace so that it's all accessible out the front. We've had an accessible, purpose-built accessible lift put in. We also have ramped all around by our pool area, redone our accessible changing rooms down there. We have just, and it arrived today, a manual hoist, movable hoist, so that we can have people lifted onto the iSwim hoist that puts them into the outdoor swimming pool, weather permitting. Last year, we even with the cost of living and the electricity and everything, we even heated our pool rather than to 81 degrees, we heated it to 83, 84. So it was that little bit warmer for people with disabilities. And what I'd really love, if anyone can find me some funding to build a indoor pool, that would be lovely for me, because that's the one thing we're lacking, but it's something we're thinking along the lines later on of a hydrotherapy pool because obviously mobility, but we also within our USP, we focus on dance groups, bridge holidays, whist holidays. We've done mahjong, cribbage, art holidays, you name it, any kind of health and well-being on that sort of scale we will try to do, but sometimes it's not as easy because we're one little hotel. We are not a franchise. We don't have endless pots of money like the big boys do, but most of our stuff has been grown by word of mouth, the organic push on social media, and getting influencers down and stuff like that. And we're just pushing now. A lot of what people are asking for is for the big brands to get involved and do more, because they should be doing more.
Are we super impressed or what?
How you're putting that, how you're disseminating that? Have you got the voices of those people that come to the hotel to say why it's good? You know, is capturing that,
yeah,
and evaluating that.
Have a look at our social media. So we had some people in this weekend called Don't Pass the Buck, who stayed with us last year, and Alfie enjoyed it so much for his 17th birthday. He wanted to come back. So we didn't know they had specifically booked in, but all our accessible rooms have to be booked direct with our reservations team. They're not allowed to be booked online. So you can't book them on booking.com or Expedia, because we need to know whether you need the hoist facility, whether you need the profiling bed. If it's not something you don't need, we don't put it in the room. It's all movable, because some people have a complete, I don't want to stay in an accessible room because I don't need it. But actually you wouldn't, the way we've done it, we've tried to do it so it doesn't look like a hospital. It doesn't look like a care home. It's still a hotel. So the hoists are all on carabiners, so they get removed from the room. It's just, you might, if you'd notice the track in the room, you'd sort of sit there and go, well, okay, I don't know why they've done that. But otherwise you wouldn't know. All the profiling stuff gets taken away. It's only if people need it.
From a business management point of view, that means 20% that was supposed to go to booking.com is now staying with the hotel.
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit of extra work and trouble in terms of user requirements and setting the room up, but that is much less than the 20% that would have been.
Well, we did it all because my mum had terminal cancer. So, and she was one of 5 people in the country that had her type of cancer. It almost went up her body like multiple sclerosis. So she had nothing from here down. I have a goddaughter that has cerebral palsy and confined to a wheelchair. I have a cousin who has Down syndrome. So a lot of these people won't do something because they have not been affected by it. They do not understand and they don't know what to do. We can't be everything to everyone. But if there's comments on our website, like or our Facebook page saying, oh, have you thought about extra? Lovely, extra, I can go and buy that. There's certain things I will react to straight away because we don't have to go to head office and we don't have to ask permission. It's all done within the family and we get it done and we get it moving straight away. We also have Welcome, which is an app which we use for guests. So the guests fill out all their different disabilities and it will tell them what properties they should go to cover their needs. It will then tell our reception staff if they're in the car park and need to be meted and greeted in the car park. It will tell them about the hidden disabilities they might have that they can't necessarily see. And we've also got another button on our website, a little circle with a person called Assist Me. So it can change our whole website depending on what color you read the website. If you're partially sighted and you need it to be spoken to you, if you're hovering over things. So it's all there. I mean, if there's more things that we can do, we try. But of course, being one business, it is for us, it's the pinch on money and how much you can't do everything. But
it's phenomenal. What you do is phenomenal. You just got the award from the tourism.
We got the
Awards.
Katies last year for accessibility, and we were up against the 5-star London hotels, little old us in Bournemouth.
I mean, I'll connect you with the European Network of Accessible Tourism, which then that's a huge network. So I will volunteer your hotel as our lab.
Okay.
The beauty, when I came to Bournemouth 15 years ago, the people were asking me, why do you go to Bournemouth? Because I said, look, I've got a lab just around the corner. Yeah, I've got enough tourism and hospitality businesses, and I've got a region that lives out of tourism and hospitality. If I'm anywhere else, I need to convince people. But here, I said to my students, I said, go and ask people around the corner, you know, they're there. So we've got a lab, and you know, with Rosie, we've been working for a long time, and that's fantastic. So she wants a swimming pool.
Hydrotherapy.
Hydrotherapy.
Bit more expensive.
You may be able to bring it with a supplier of hydrotherapy, you know, maybe someone who is actually providing this kind of things, where you bring 2 or 3 people together, and then once you have got it, you kind of showcase it in the hotel, and one thing goes to the other. Yeah. So it's I'm always thinking about partnerships. I'm always thinking about synergies.
On
So
top of that,
yeah.
what is the NHS responsibility or response in that? Because obviously everything that you were saying strikes me that then if we could engage with hotels, that provides step down opportunity from discharge from hospital, doesn't it? And of course, that immediately creates a cost saving to the NHS. And actually, if you could convince the NHS that actually they could pot slice their budgets and invest that money in step down, which was aimed at towards hotels.
People were at its village hotel.
And I think the village is right opposite the.
I know, but-
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, but it had its challenges. It was quite.
Yeah, I think there's something.
Absolutely.
I think it's that knowledge and what you don't know, you then you don't know, do you?
We wanted to do something, but when COVID hit, we are a Greek hotel. We couldn't do any of our dance holidays. We couldn't do anything. We literally shut the hotel for a year because we opened for 3 months in the middle and then shut again for the 9 months. And we did projects that we couldn't necessarily do when we were open. So we gutted the kitchen, we redid the balconies at the front, and we did our accessibility. And within that, we got match funding grant, ARG funding from BCP Council for £70,000. And when we applied for it, we didn't think we had a hope in hell of actually getting it and what we wanted to do. But because we got it, we ended up doing a hell of a lot more than what we originally started to do. Because once it opened our eyes of what was possible, I mean, yeah, we've got what we call a bastard building that you can't change. It's over 100 years old. So, and it was houses built onto houses. So yeah, when somebody tells me you need to make your corridors bigger, I can't make my corridors bigger. I'm stuck with the corridors I have, but we will try and do whatever we can within the parameters of what we've got.
I think Rosie, the most important thing that we found when we were doing all this research was it was about knowing how big your corridor is rather than making it bigger.
Yeah.
So it's really down to floor plans, and it's really about getting to provide the right information to people out to make the informed decisions.
Even down to making sure your staff know, well, if
Yeah.
your fire door opens on that side, but it's got a bit that side, leave your trolley on that side of the corridor. Don't leave it on this side. So people with wheelchairs have got to weave around.
Or they change the wheelchair. They're different size of wheelchairs, and people will know that if they go into this place and they've got this constraint, they change wheelchairs.
But we also have backup plans. So we've got 2 lifts in the hotel. We're stuck with one, which is a tiny little lift, but we bought a wheelchair that fits that lift. If the other one broke down and the guest was on the first floor, okay, how are you going to get the guest down? And staff sort of look at me and go, well, I don't know. Right, you hoist them into this chair, you take them down in the smaller lift, you get the plank of woods down, you get the wheelchair down from there to there, and then you hoist them back into the other chair. Oh, I didn't think of that. No, but this is why we have those kind of meetings. So it's
But then we
what
build in an occupational, so support you, we have Department of Occupational Therapists and Physiotherapists, there you bring in, you use our resources, because we've got like student projects, so they can work with you again, so
60 to 70%, it's about attitude. The rest, what I've discovered is that it's attitude. The rest, you can sort it out.
But unless people are affected by it in their home life, it's very difficult for them to get past the fact that, well, yeah, but you're making my hotel look like a nursing home. That's not what you're doing.
No.
You're just making it accessible because everyone should have the same opportunities to go away.
Is that medical tourism now, isn't it, in Turkey and stuff?
That's something different, actually. Medical tourism is something totally different. Yeah.
If you've got rehabilitation, somebody that's coming for intensive rehab, for example, needs the pool for a week, it's a luxurious experience for the person that's with them and stuff like that. So if I'm not talking about this as another option, it's a small option, but there is always that kind of rehabilitation tourism, as it were.
Yeah.
And actually that could be aimed at a private market as well. So that market that are likely to go to Turkey to get their teeth done, etc. That market who are going to pay for a service, who are possibly already accessing private health, then maybe the rehabilitation bit is a paid for package as well as thinking NHS funding. Yeah.
I'm keen to bring Heather into here to tell us.
Page full of notes. But
Yeah.
make it more free.
And I think, Heather, you're absolutely critical in this discussion, because in a way, you keep a lot of keys to a lot of decision makers.
Oh, I
And
don't know about that.
Okay.
But I think I don't know how much people know about the age-friendly communities, like role and project really stems from the World Health Organization. And they went to, I think, over 30 different areas, over 22 countries, to ask what really affects people's quality of life. And within that, they found that there was 8 domains. That's all right, lovely. There was 8 domains that's the same in every country. And it's things like, you talked about it already, you know, the outdoor spaces. So the roads, the pavements, the accessibility, the housing, the transport, how you get to places as well, and how that's really important. Social activities, you talked about lots, which is wonderful. The health and social care, we talked about the hospitals, didn't we? So it's come up, and the diversity and inclusion, we talked about ageism, and the way that we speak and the language that we choose to use is so important, because it can either encourage people to come, or it could be, oh, that's for other people, isn't it? So everything that we've talked about today has been all under those 8 domains, really. So that's really important. As part of the age-friendly work that we're doing, it's really asset-based. So, you know, what is working well? Where are these absolutely amazing nuggets of, you know, examples of things that are working really well? And how can we help other people know that? And that was one of your comments, wasn't it? How do we let people know what's going on? And your website sounds like it's absolutely fantastic, and a really, again, a good example of where things are working really well. So it's taking those beautiful shining nuggets and being able to show others how they should be working, and maybe using that also to attract people to come to our area as well. And that's based on that network and sharing, exactly what you were saying, wasn't it? Sort of getting those people together. So one of the age-friendly things that we're building on this year is really looking at building our network, or continuing to build our network. So within those 8 domains, we're constantly bringing people together and looking at linking. So like you were saying, oh, you know, maybe if we were thinking about hotels on the beach, and then maybe doing like the rehab on the beach, like who would we need in the room to be able to talk? So maybe somebody from the hospital, or from, you know, from the hotels as well. So bringing the right people together to have these discussions, and that's how you bring Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole forward, by having the right people around the table to be able to share expertise. Michelle's laughing at me. I cried when you put your film on. That's how it affected me, because I was just like, gosh, yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really does. It really does. And I guess succinctly, just trying to link people in the right, but with the right people is really important, and perhaps something where I could really help.
I'm intrigued about what that's what I was laughing at.
Oh, very good.
The difference between a rehabilitator and a caring person. We've tried to give him a chair there, was I'll be like, no, you can stand.
I was trembling, so it's okay.
I really appreciate the design method that you've come up with.
Well, I used to be a photographer, right? So I can do all kinds of improvisations. Look, what can we do for you? Now you understand the different bits of expertise. What would the industry do with Rosie as her own hotel, but Rosie is in all the different pies. So I think it's really the synergies of bringing different people together and actually saying, okay, if Bournemouth would like to not necessarily reposition itself, but position itself as a destination that is really aging friendly, dementia friendly, what are some of the immediate things that we can do? And there's some low-hanging fruit that we can catch very quickly. Obviously, Rosie's down the line on a lot of the things. Some other people are starters. Some people would like to do some of these things. And if you remember the pyramid, so Rosie is probably going to take people who are farther down the pyramid, but some other people may take some people who are not as far as that, because the market is vast and the market is increasing, and all of us will need this kind of services. But as a destination, can we take things forward, and can we work with, can we bring the synergies between the different players? We can do the accessibility research, the aging research, the dementia research, the rehabilitation research, and bring all of these bits together. And I think that will kind of take us forward.
I think it's deciding what you want to perhaps begin working on, because this is huge, isn't it? And it's absolutely huge, but that's where also what an amazing opportunity to be able to improve in so many different areas. So it's deciding, well, what is it that we want to work on first? Is it attracting? Is it trying to improve the hotel experience? What is it that we want to pick on first, and then working towards getting the right people together?
Look, I'm an academic, but I'm very practical. Okay, so what you start from is the low-hanging fruit. So if we had your mom cannot go around because of the sand on the beach. That may be an issue somewhere, may not be an issue somewhere else on the beach. So the first thing is information about what's accessible and what. So the first thing is really looking into, I guess some of the newer hotels, because they've got newer regulation, may be more accessible than others.
They need to have regulations that a certain amount of these rooms
Yeah.
are put in that should be that way accessible.
Yeah. So you start, first thing is really looking into what's the product and look at what's accessible. Actually, I've just written a paper about ChatGPT, and I was testing, and I wrote, what about if I go, I don't know which destination I said, and I said, I was in Riyadh, I was in Saudi Arabia, and I said, 4 days in Saudi Arabia in Riyadh, what do I do? And the next question I asked ChatGPT was 4 days in Riyadh if I'm a wheelchair user. And of course, the suggestions changed. So, and actually we can use ChatGPT and find out what is available here now. It will not be accurate, but we're gonna work with this. So the first thing is, what is the product? the second thing is to learn from these guys. What is the need? What is the requirement of people with dementia, aging? You know, learn from your mom. And Daisy is very good at creating typology, because again, we're talking about a market that has got a whole range of different needs and different requirements. So if you can bring together, I don't know, active widows, or people who'd like to dance, or you may like to have some people that they need more exercise than others, you know, that they need this kind of gentle push, and you may have some students that they'd like to do a practice, you know, find a way, and then immediately that may take away the disorientation, and I'd like someone to look after me in terms of guiding. It's kind of bring the different bits together.
Also, like to say, for rehab wise, there is a lady, if you look her up on LinkedIn, called Sylvia Mahal. I don't know if you know her. She does inclusive bungalow properties. She's got a few around the country with hoists and profiling beds that she rents out as holiday homes. So if you don't find anywhere in your area, she's now putting these around the country. And she's just, I think they're just two ladies doing it themselves and trying to fund it. But it's a great little thing what they're on. But look them up on LinkedIn, because it's really interesting what they've been doing. Sylvia Mahal, I think. Yeah. Mahal.
And also last time we invite the guest speaker for the Enable My Trip. That's a charity organization. Yeah, from Simon and also Jamie, our graduates 2 or 3 years ago. They have this charity to have all the information for these disabilities, accessibility, issues. They have a list of different hotels. Well, your hotel is named there. Yeah, and also transportation, also attractions, how to make it more accessible. And I think that's also one option we can work with.
Okay. We are going towards the end. And I'd like to spend 15 minutes on action points. I really want to spend 15 minutes on action points, find out what do we need to do and get us moving. Did you find that useful to bring this together? If we were to meet again in a smaller format rather than a presentation format, and we put our sleeves up and say, okay, what do we need to do? We really need to create a project that brings different expertise together. We need to get money for the swimming pool, top priority. And we may need to do it by bringing suppliers who actually are keen to show to our students what to do and how to use their pools in order to do rehabilitation work. So connecting dots here. And we need the council to come forward and say, okay, let's create a little project with this. And let's see where other pots of money is available for research to bring it forward. NHS.
You actually really seriously need to be talking to the major stakeholders in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole.
Absolutely.
That Merrick estate, which nobody's mentioned at all. You need to be talking to...
Who is Merrick estate, sir?
You need to be talking...
Who is Merrick estate? Please tell me.
Sir George Marriott.
They own the whole of the.
Yeah,
East
we're in negotiations for our lease at the moment. We can't
Who else do you
win
think?
on project counting them.
Who else do you think?
Well, sorry,
The
in terms
council.
of the stakeholders,
Definitely
well, I think
the
Susan's
council.
right in terms of one of the big issues with
Because
the
nothing
hoteliers on the
nothing.
Heathcliff and so on, is of course, they're all owned by the same person, by the same organisation, which is the Merrick Estate.
To be fair, that the issues have arisen because some of the hotels for want of a better word, don't really care about it is that they're doing, and they're not looking after the product, which is why it's stalled quite a lot of things. We're in negotiations with American states at the moment. We actually saw one of them yesterday, and we're trying to renew our lease, which once we can renew our lease, will lend us the, we can then invest the money in sorting out the hydrotherapy pool and the other things that we want to do. But they are a major stakeholder.
Yeah,
but they were willing to work.
Who else did you think of?
the lady with the no sleeves. And who are you from?
I'm from BCP Council.
So she's from the council.
She is from the council.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have a department labelled development?
For leisure and tourism, but there is lots of
destination and planning.
there's
Oh,
lots
right,
of different
yeah.
there's lots of different departments that might be able to support. It's finding
if you're talking about the council, you need social services to be involved.
it's finding the right.
You need education,
So you need education, social services and so on. So where you need people like the commissioning officers for social services who've got access to the people who are providing the social services for those who are at the aged and those with dementia. So you've got all those care providers who are actually already providing care in inverted commas to what is your target population.
But we're in tourism hospitality, so we really want to bring people from other places. It's not about the local.
No, I know.
Local
But my
community.
point
You're right.
My point being is that you've got to get their buy-in in order to be able then to develop the product. And of course, you also need their buy-in to do the other things which are associated with it, which are the infrastructure developments that you've been talking about.
Absolutely.
It's no good just doing it on the basis that we need the sand cleared away.
Yeah.
You know, you need the sand cleared away for the local community, let alone anybody else that's to come. So I think it is about mind mapping to actually work out exactly who those key stakeholders are, who you need to influence at what stage of the process, and who do you need to get engaged at the beginning in terms of what you want to do collectively, which are research around how you develop those relationships.
Absolutely.
So I think, care home providers, there are lots of them. But from my point of view, I would be saying the thing that holds all of this together in the end is you're right. You've got to what you need is a small, relatively small research project that could be perhaps based on the Marshall Report that actually brings in all of the dementia, aging, and to some extent, the sport, the physical body components of all of that, brings that together, runs it somewhere where you've already got some functionality, you've got the functions, you've got the facilities, so you've got that lab, and then it's about how do you share that with the broader sets of stakeholders that you've got within the community.
Absolutely.
And that's where I would be looking at going. But the thing that I keep noting down here, the big issue, of course, is raising the awareness of all of the issues, and that's a huge problem in itself. But the other is if you want to do something in Bournemouth from a hospitality tourism point of view, we're stuffed for staff at the moment. The big issue is that you need staff to be appropriately trained and aware of people coming with these different sets of disabilities.
I'll just, because I'll come in on that bit just before, because I can see you're going to go on to the next, and I'll probably lose, when it's in the moment, and if I say it, it'll be there. So one of the things that we're working on this year is working with businesses to look at them being more age friendly and dementia friendly as well. And Sue Wall, who was here from Pharma, is cascading out dementia friendly to businesses to support with that, because I agree with everything you're saying. I just thought I'd say that that's what we're doing this year. Carry on.
My issue there is that it's the people on the ground that are really the ones that are make it happen. It's not the Roses of this world, it's the actual staff who are delivering it now. We do have a staffing problem across the industry, across the world, let alone in Bournemouth. But it's actually how do you, and a lot of them, there's quite a lot of churn, so you've got staff changing all the time.
Biggest problem.
You've got to get
It's the money it costs to put on those training, But 2
Absolutely.
months later, your staff have all changed over again.
Absolutely.
You've got to keep doing it. You can't afford to keep throwing money at it. I mean, we did our purple training 2 years ago. We haven't done it since because they keep changing all the time. And it's trying to get that time to, but no offense, we're not quiet during the winter.
No.
Other hotels might be, but I can assure you we're not. We're constantly going all the time.
Yeah.
And it's trying to
That
get
is-
that time for the training.
Yeah.
But the prices of it is.
I know, but that's where I think that the university, what is the university all about? What does it exist to do? It's education.
Yeah.
And we're actually in the process. So if you could find some pots of money that would develop appropriate training resources, they don't always have to be face-to-face training. It could be different forms of training. But if you could find some pots of money to develop that, then that would be a major contribution to the issue about how staff awareness and stuff.
Another Rosie hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, the reason why you're here is to trying to help us to find the money. To find the pots. Okay, that is it must be clear.
Visit England have an accessible board that came down to us in December to have a look around.
Yeah.
Just Ross Calladine is a great person.
Yeah.
He spears that, and he's got the ear of government when it comes to that.
We've worked with Ross in the past as well. Yeah, it's really good.
The what funds as well that comes out, I think it's every 2 weeks, that lists all the funding opportunities that you can apply for in the local area, and that's a newsletter that's easy to sign up to, and I'm happy to send the link to anybody that might want to see that.
I think what we need to do is we need to come back together fairly soon. Together, and you may like to bring some of your colleagues as well.
I'm happy to host a meeting at the hotel so you can all have a look around as well.
Fantastic. Would love to do that. So there'll be a small kind of meeting.
Yeah, you will. Hey, mate, bread if you want it too.
No, I'll bring shortbread. That's all.
Lovely. So we can so it's really about thinking up on looking for opportunities. The problem we have got academically in tourism and hospitality is that people are very reluctant to give us money. They're giving money to health, they give money to engineering, they give money to a lot of other disciplines, but with us we're suffering. I don't know why.
Yeah, but can I just mention that I think the problem sometimes, and I've been in your position, so I know it only too well, is that we often are looking in the wrong places. So if you're looking for some funding, which is related to hospitality or tourism, look at wellbeing funding, look at what's available locally. I mean, I would go, for example, Cooper Dean Estates. Cooper Dean actually fund an awful lot of these sorts of activities that would be, you might not be looking at huge amounts, 20,000 or something of that order. Then places like Cooper Dean Estate will be one. The other one will be Tilba Village Trust, because they also fund all sorts of things in relation to, because it's for the betterment of the local community. So what you're doing is really looking at the integration of things, improving the community. And that's where the local grant givers would be probably better positioned than some of the more traditional academic routes, if you like.
Yeah.
I know you want to publish it at the end, but but that's a byproduct of what you would be doing.
Absolutely.
It's not the purpose.
We knock on your door, Peter, for context. I know that you're connected with a lot of people.
Contact them.
Who's this?
Dorset Lit, local enterprise.
Local enterprise partnership. Or the bid, would they do? Bid?
They won't have any money out of it.
No, they won't have any money, that's true.
None of the bids have enough money. They need to, we're even talking at the moment that actually Dorset as a whole, because we've got the DMOs, we want to put a Dorset-wide DMO together, which includes Dorset and BCP as one area, and then look at actually changing the bids to a tourism bid, because we've got no power like the likes of Isle of Wight do, because they've come as one area. We're split into 4 different areas just over the BCP area at the moment. It's just not.
No, that's true.
Rosie, would you like?
I was just going to mention another couple. If you think, his name will come back to me in a minute. It's aging for you. One of the issues that you might look at is that there is some educational funding for specific projects. I know there's £15,000, for example, for a wellbeing project, but you bid through skills and learning, which is a bizarre thing that you might think about, but within Bournemouth and Dorset, there is skills and learning funding that you could be thinking about making applications to. But his name will come back to me, but then I can give you the name of the guy who controls those funding budgets.
Daisy, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want the idea we just mentioned, like I think which relates to the like BCP council or like a broader scope is the idea we discussed with Susan last time about destination-based older tourism support ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that's how we want to get money. We don't know the result yet, but the thing we want to do is to ask the senior tourists what they want from their experiences. So what kind of things we could support. And then we also have all the industry people, different stakeholders say what we can do and what is missing there. And we tend to develop some training guidance and the menus or those kind of regulations for the to establish some like age-friendly destinations such as Bournemouth. And those kind of things can be sustained by accreditation schemes or like, age-friendly destination, age-friendly hotel, age-friendly restaurant. So this is the thing we're proposing, but relevant to BCP Council.
So you basically take the whole destination and you are looking to what's compatible to what you're trying to do, and then you're packaging that and you create an ecosystem that's actually addressing these things, and you showcase the best examples, and you create, you may need 3 hotels, 5 restaurants, 2 bars, 6 pubs, and that's your ecosystem. And then immediately that becomes your aging, dementia-friendly kind of place.
And we have all the training menus that like could be online, offline for all the hotels or something for the training purposes.
Okay, I'd like to close unless someone has got some things. Rosie, thank you for the invitation. Gladly accepted. Let us.
Give me a few days. And I'll
No, we'll go with your days. We give you. You give us some days that fit your program and your.
Just need to give me are you talking
Calendar.
a month, 3 months? When are you talking? Give me a month and I'll have a look and come back to you.
Thank you. We'll
Roughly how many people so I can.
We're probably gonna be a small meeting, to sit down and try to find out, we need Heather and some of her colleagues, we need some of us to take things forward. What do you think, Yeah, good. Michele?
Really good. I'd love to see the hotel. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah. And Susan is gonna bring her students as well, so because actually a lot of the students from nursing, they would love to work in a tourism hospitality environment. It's actually very close. When you see what we are doing, it's very close.
I mean, without even thinking about it, the uptake on events and conferences that we've seen in the last couple of months, because we've now got charities doing their board meetings, conference people doing their training for their staff with us, just because of the ethos. It's not necessarily that they need the stuff that we've put in, but it's the ethos behind it, that you're catering and inclusive for everyone, that they've started going, oh, well, you can do all the training for our staff at your hotel. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, colleagues, let's bring it to a close. I hope that you find that useful.
Yeah, thank you very much for organising.
I hope that, that's the beginning rather than the end of a thing. And I think when you bring people together and we think together, we can actually take advantage of our collective expertise and we can bring things forward. And I think Bournemouth University, we've got a lot of expertise in different areas. And I think we should be doing a better job by bringing it together and moving it and this kind of project makes a huge difference to people, your mother and my disabled kind of colleagues and friends that I've been working with, people with dementia, then the industry, because it can create extra support, then it goes to the council and everybody. And once you do it for residents, then it's appropriate for tourists and all the communities around. So you can, you can start like this, and you can make it a much bigger thing. And the other thing is that we always thinking about these things by looking at barriers. And my experience from doing work on disability and accessibility is that you start opening one thing and another thing opens, and another thing opens. Rather than say, I cannot, you say, I can so much. And then the next person says, I can do so much as well. So by bringing all the synergies between the different enablers, you break the barriers before the enablers. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Very much.
And see you in Rose's place sometime very soon. Thank you. By the way, we've got the video. I will upload it, and I'm going to send it to you, so we can kind of have a share area.
Thank you.